And boy, I was running to the wheelhouse. And when we got up there, coming up the last flight of stairs, we were starting to rattle out, and that's when the noise comes. And oh boy, the next several minutes were very violent. It's a very violent experience. Just communication-wise, you're going to have a lot of troubles. Me and the chief mate, we had to yell at each other. Even though we're in the same wheelhouse, we had to yell at each other over the noise that was being generated by the unit shaking around. It was unbelievable.
ATVs are designed to operate while connected to their barge via the intercon connection, but the tug must also be capable of taking the barge under tow if the situation requires it. This procedure is well outside normal day-to-day ATV operations, undertaken in emergency circumstances, so it's critical that all crew members are familiar with the towing equipment and the specific steps required to ensure the gear is safely and successfully deployed. Known as the emergency tow package, this necessary towing gear is stowed aboard the tug and barge to allow for rapid deployment when required. Located between the stacks above the weather deck, an emergency tow line box houses half the tow hawser. Each barge is equipped with 2 emergency tow lines. The primary package is located at the bow and is stowed in the Prince William sound box. It consists of 500 to 600 feet of hawser shackled to a length of chain which is connected to a Smith bracket that's located on the deck. The secondary hawser is housed in a similar locker on the port side near the stern, adjacent to the Panama chock. Each of the barge tow lines is connected to a messenger line, which permits retrieval of the tow line with the aid of a capstan by crews stationed on the tug. Once aboard the tug, the barge's tow line is married with the tug's tow line with a towing shackle, allowing the barge to be taken in tow. The responsible officer will conduct a pre-job safety analysis, meeting with all personnel involved in the job. Basic safety considerations to be reviewed include stop work authority responsibilities, personal protective equipment for this job, personal safety check, line and shackle handling, line snapback and pinch points, heavy lifting. All emergency towing operations are to be conducted in accordance with Crowley's ATB emergency tow line procedures. The meeting will also walk through all the steps in deploying the tow package. Should the tow line be worked off the bow or stern? In preparation, the tug's tow line will be faked out and clear of all obstacles prior to retrieving the barge tow line. The shackle will be in place, with pin pulled and at the ready prior to deployment. Crew member job assignments and designated safe locations for personnel on deck. Radio communications, including primary frequencies. Anticipated weather and sea conditions prior to deployment.
He'll stand off for the first part of this evolution.
To prepare the tug's tow line, a crew of 2 line handlers and a supervisor open the tow line's locker between the tug's stacks above the weather deck. The tow line is stored such that both its ends, the tow thimble, and the spliced eye for the H-bit are accessible on top of the stored hawser.
Hey Cap, we're all ready to go down on the deck and take the eye around the bits and secure it. Just let us know when it's clear and safe to do so.
Roger, it's safe to do so at this point. Let me know when you're back up off the deck.
The line handlers lower the spliced eye to the afterdeck and, when safe to do so, secure it to the H-bit and fake out a length of line on deck. Ensure that a section of chafing gear is placed on the line to reduce the risk of chafing when the line comes tight over the stern. Next, the line handling crew removes the thimble end of the tow line and lowers it to the deck below. This thimble end will be attached to the tow shackle and then to the barge tow line once it's been retrieved. This operation may be conducted on the afterdeck or bow of the tug, dependent on weather or other operational concerns.
By operating on the bow rather than the stern, you try to fake a line out on the stern. The stern's usually got about 4 or 5 foot of wash on it, and it sometimes will take that emergency tow line and just roll it right up. If you run everything on the bow, I think it's a little safer. Everything's a little more controlled. I think you got, and the captain up in the wheelhouse has a better glimpse of everything that's happening down on the foredeck. Whereas if anybody's working on the afterdeck, the controls all are facing forward. There's no visibility on the afterdeck, thus he cannot see. Yes, you could probably put a chief mate down there on a radio, but there's a lot of delay time, where you can probably take the delay time out and maybe save somebody's life. And so by setting this up on the foredeck, that's the reason why I think, to me, overall it's a more safe and controlled experience and environment.
On the tug, it's important to temporarily secure the tow line with some small stuff just inside the bulwarks to keep it clear of any possible obstructions, so that while it's deploying, the line will pay out freely without hanging up. Retrieving the barge's tow line is accomplished using the messenger line that's secured on the handrail along the starboard side of the barge from the notch to the bow. It passes through the closed chock on the bow and is shackled to the tow line several feet below the thimble. The messenger line is stripped off by the tug as it departs the notch and moves away from the barge. When sufficient strain is put on the messenger, the tow line located on the bow of the barge will begin paying out.
Yeah, I'm going to just try to ease it out. I've got her.
Aboard the tug, the deck crew recovers the messenger line using one of the capstans. This will depend on whether the package will be deployed on the bow or stern of the tug. As the messenger is retrieved, it should be stowed in a way that ensures it does not become a hazard to the crew.
Okay, we're right on the chain now.
When bringing the barge tow line thimble aboard, a stopper should be used to secure the tow line in place while it's being connected to the tow shackle. This operation involves heavy gear under substantial strain and may need to be undertaken under adverse weather and sea conditions, so great care needs to be exercised to avoid injuries from line snapback and pinch points, strains from lifting, as well as slips, trips, and falls. The combined weight of the tow shackle and two thimbles is about 250 pounds, so it's recommended to use one of the tow knuckle cranes to lift the shackle and thimbles into place for release. A tag line is used to control the shackle while it's being swung outboard. A large buoy is chained to the shackle to keep it from sinking when released. This arrangement allows the captain to keep track of the location of the tow line and shackle as the tug is maneuvered, and aids in keeping it out of the props and steering gear. With the tow lines married, and on the captain's order, the stopper is let go, releasing the shackle overboard.
Okay, let her go. Spur away. Line away.
Once the tow line begins paying out, the tug's tow line will strip off the temporary lashings inside the bulwarks, and the remainder of the tug's emergency tow line will begin paying out from the deck locker between the stacks. During this process, the afterdeck must be clear of all personnel and appropriate safety zones established to avoid crew member contact with the line as it pays out. Once the emergency tow package has fully deployed, the tug may move ahead and put a strain on the line.
Negative. Now it is. All the chains deployed.
That's it. There's the money shot. I'm done.
We did it today based on a controlled circumstance with a current and stuff, and if this actually happens, it probably will be in worse weather with the wind blowing and the current. It won't be. So while we did it off the port side today and it happened to work fine, there might be circumstances where you'll have to do it off the stern or off the other side. It's just how the barge is laying and how it works out. But this was a good example as the guys walk through it and actually handle the equipment to see what's going to happen.
Usually when something happens like this, it's riotous. Everybody's in turmoil, trying to get everybody together.
As well as sitting in the corner in front of the intercom screen without your eyes trying to rattle out and focus on how you wanted to operate the touch screen. And I literally had to wedge myself in there. It was just so violent and noisy.
If you have to come out of the notch, pull away. If it's dark, if you're not in any immediate danger, stand by, wait till daylight, get your crew together, because you know, anybody that's been in any type of these situations, the adrenaline is running, you know, they're getting beat up. There's quite a bit of knock around up in the wheelhouse, going one way or the other, bumped heads, bruises, you name it, it can happen to you. My idea is just pull off, get everybody together, let everything calm down, get it more controlled, and by then I think you'd have a safer operation.
When we backed out and after we got away from the barge with the stern into the sea, you know, we just kind of looked at each other and kind of, hey, what the heck just happened? You know, it was so quiet.
Obviously, if the barge is in immediate danger, then you're probably going to have to go in and get it right away. But with any instance, it's always good to take a good look, step back, see how you can work it, see what's the best way to work it, see the safest way to work it, do your JSAs, bring everybody into the fold, communication, the lot, and then I think you'll have a lot safer operation.